All right, everybody. Happy whatever today is. Um, we are going to get started with assignment 3B. I thought it was going to be the same as yesterday, but it is not. This is all about weighted averages. Weighted averages, where different numbers are worth different values than something else. Like a common example that you're going to see a lot is kind of similar to how classes are scored. Like so, for instance, in this example right here, the homework is worth 15% of the grade, tests are worth 65% of the grade, and the final is worth 20% of the grade. So you can see that these test points, just in general, are worth more than a homework point in general. It has more weight to it. So how do you come up with, like a final score or a final grade with these weighted averages? And so that's what we are going to be looking at here. Okay. In general, how you find a weighted average of something is, I'll abbreviate it, weighted average is, if you take a look at a formula sheet, what it is, it's going to be XW divided by the sum of W, where X is like your scores or something like that, and W is the weight of something. So a quick example would be, let's say that we have a typical class, and so what we are going to do is you're going to take the score that you got on your tests, and you're going to multiply it by the weight of the tests. Okay? And now you add to that whatever other categories that you have completely fulfilled. Like, so you'll have the score that you got on your homeworks, and you multiply that by the weight of the homeworks. All right. So you do this to however many categories that are completely fulfilled, as in you have both a score and a weight. So, like for instance, if you haven't taken the final yet, it's not going to get factored into the final score of something. Your grade won't be affected if you didn't take it, if the class didn't take it. All right, so that is the score. The board is a little weird. Times the weight. Okay. Now, what do you divide by? You divide by just the weights, again, of just specifically the satisfied categories. So this would be the weight of the tests plus the weight of the homework. And that's how you find a weighted average. Okay, this is most oftentimes your grade that you have. It's your grade in class. All right. So here we go. Juanito is taking statistics and is concerned about his grade. It's coming to the end of the semester, and he's wondering how the final could affect his grade. Here's the scenario. So we have the class weights, and we have what Juanito's scores are. Notice that they haven't taken the final yet, so that is not part of the calculation as far as his current grade. All right, so what is Juanito's current grade? So what Juanito's current grade is going to be is we multiply the score with the weight. So let's begin with homework. So homework is 52. Yeah, let's say 0.52. 52% multiplied by the weight of homework. Plus, let's add in the tests. So his score times his weight. Notice how we would not add the final into this because we have not taken the final yet. So the final is not part of it. So we divide by just the weights. So that was 15% and 65%. Again, we are not adding the weight of that final that we did not take. All right, so this will figure out, this is his scores times the weights. That's how you get a weighted average. So when you do this, my advice is to get a complete answer to the numerator, a complete answer to the denominator, and then divide. Don't try to work it all at once. So 52 and 15 with 59 and 65. And 65. Right, and I'm good with a decimal. Like, hopefully y'all understand what that means. So that means that Juanito currently has a 57% in class. So 57% in class leading up to the final. Okay, is it possible for Juanito to pass? Right now, we're unable to actually answer that question. We can guess, but we don't have any mathematical evidence that we would be right or wrong or anything like that. What we need to do is we need to do question C, and then we can go ahead and answer question B. So, question C. If Juanito would ace the test, get a 100% on that final, what would his grade be? So in this problem, what would Juanito's grade be if he would get 100% on the final itself? All right, so what this is this is the homework, the tests, and now a 100%, so his score is hypothetically 100% on a test that is worth, what, 20% of the grade. So he would hypothetically get a 100%. We're just make-believing that number. If he would ace the test, what would his grade be? And so this is divided by just the weights. All right, we're going to get a complete answer to the top. Complete answer to the bottom. And then divide the two. So if Juanito would get a 100% on the final, he would end up with a 66%, 66.15%. So with that, we can go back to question B and say, is it possible for Juanito to pass? Yes, it is possible. Okay, what is the minimal percentage needed for Juanito to pass? This is referring to that final. What would be the minimal percentage that Juanito would need to pass the class? All right, so using the last question kind of as a reference, we need to change up two different things of this equation to solve this question. Okay, first thing that we need to change up is one, Juanito is no longer going to have a 100%. This is the question that is being asked. What is that number? What is that? What is the smallest number for Juanito to pass? So that's one change. The next change that we have to make is we have to change the grade. The grade is no longer unknown. We're not discovering what the grade is. We know what that is. So the minimal percentage to pass would imply that his grade is 60%. All right, so setting this up with the changes. So the answer is 60%. Okay, here's that other change. Instead of saying that Juanito is going to get 100%, we're going to leave it as a variable, x. All right, so that is now our working formula. Let me take a moment here and make that a little bit smaller, give myself a little bit more working room here. All right, so here we go. So, cleaning this stuff up just a little bit, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all the numbers together. So that's 0.52 times 0.15 plus 0.59 times 0.65. And so this is 0.4615 plus 0.20x, all divided by 1. All right, now I know it's probably been a little bit since you did some algebra, but that's exactly what this question is. It's an algebra problem. And so to do that, we have to undo this equation. So I'll just kind of key into what you need to be doing. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to multiply out that denominator. You're going to subtract the number. And then you're going to divide the coefficient, the number next to the x. And that will get you your answer. So we start with 0.60. So that means we're going to multiply 1, subtract 0.4615, and divide by 0.20. So this says x, that's the score that he's getting on the test, would be 6925. So that is the smallest percentage that, so Juanito has to get a 69.25% on the final to pass the class. That's what he must get. He must get a 69.25. Say that there are 80 questions on the final. What's the minimal number of questions that Juanito needs to get right to pass the class? Well, he needs to get 69.25. So he needs to get 0.6925 of 80 questions. That's how many questions that he needs to get right, whatever that is. So 69.25 of 80. He needs to get 55.4 questions correct. Again, leave me the math answer. Don't run. And that's how you do weighted averages. So you really need to know how to set this up right here. Question A is probably going to be the one that is on the big time test, on the CRT test. Question A is kind of what it is. Right, for the chapter test, you have to know how to do all of this, but that's the question that you really, really need to know. All right, let's go ahead and whip through question 2 and get out of here. All right, so Francesca this time, same scenario. Let's go to work. All right, so what is Francesca's grade? So again, we multiply the scores with the weights. So let's go with homework. the tests, and then we haven't taken the final yet, so that doesn't get part of this calculation, divided by just purely the weights. Ooh, Francesca's hurting right now. She has a 52%. She has a 52%. But the final is worth 25%, so that's a big chunk. So 25% is still to come. All right, so is it possible for Francesca to pass? I don't know. We have to do question C. So for her to pass, getting a 100%. So her grade, okay, we're going to give her the best case scenario. So we have the homeworks, the tests, and now the final, in which she's going to have a 100% on something that is worth 25% of the grade. So divide by just the weights. So best case scenario, if she gets a perfect score on the final, Francesca will end up with a 64%. So is it possible for Francesca to pass? Yes, it is possible. What is the minimal percentage to pass? Again, double check it. Passing is 60%. So again, we are going to change up this equation a little bit. And we know that the grade is going to be 60%. If she gets, I don't know, percentage on the final. So I don't know, X is what we're going to be solving for. So putting just the numbers together, so this is 60. So what I mean by just the numbers, I'm referring to these numbers right here. These are all numbers. This is going to be a variable that has an X on it, so you can't add that onto numbers. That'd be similar to saying, like, what's 2 plus 3x? Well, you can't add those together. You physically can't add those things together. So they're not like terms. You can only add and subtract things that are the same. So what would be 2 plus 3x plus 4? Well, that would be 3x plus 6. Because you can add the numbers, but the x doesn't add anything. Okay, here we go. So here we go. We got 0.64 times 0.10 plus 0.51 times 0.65. So the numbers come out to be 3955, just like what we got before, 3955. And then we have this 0.25x divided by 1. We'll get right there. And again, what we're going to do is we're going to multiply out that bottom number, subtract off the constant, and then divide the coefficient. All right, so here we go, 0.60. Multiply out the denominator, subtract off the constant, and divide by the coefficient. And that implies that x is equal to 8180. So Francesca has to get an 81% on the final. That's the smallest percentage possible for her to pass. She has to get 81% on the final. Okay. So last but not least, there's 80 questions on the final. How many of them does she have to get right to pass? Well, she has to get this percentage of, which is multiply, 80 questions. So she has to get 65.44 questions correct. Partial credit or something. That's how it's done. All right. Thanks for watching.